I am going to get a lot of you to disagree with me for what I'm about to say, but I cannot, in good conscience, let this messaging continue to float around the interwebs without me opening up my mouth about it and saying something. So let's just zoom out here for a second. I saw a video done by someone who's an author and someone who I actually still follow and I still like and respect. I like their content a lot, but they made a video recently that's basically messaging that obesity is purely biological, that discipline is fake, that hunger always wins, and weight loss is harder to kick than heroin. Or sorry, that kicking food is harder than heroin. And I cannot stand this because, again, this is just my opinion, but I feel like the internet is slowly convincing people that they are powerless. And I can no longer stand for it. Now, this message does look compassionate on the surface, but underneath it just teaches people helplessness. I'm going to read you some excerpts of it. I cannot enunciate right now, but he's pretty much talking about Ozempic. So I'll start with here. Then that the body positivity movement said for decades that we were lazy gluttons or our hormones just suck. And then they made a medication that fixed the hormones and it turned out to be a miracle obesity cure. And he's referencing Ozempic, and he does say Ozempic right here. He's like, the moment Ozempic came out, they immediately lost as much weight as celebrities possibly could, or just people in general, and then acting like this is some sort of a gotcha. See, like you could have lost the weight at any time. So he's pretty much shutting down people who are like, oh, so you were on Ozempic, so you did lose weight, which means that you could have done it on your own at some point, but he's shutting that down, saying that they couldn't have done it on their own. And he references another point right here where he says the last time he's pretty much saying that people can lose weight because they're under high stress or they're smoking. So he says right here, for example, they may have quit smoking and just immediately gained 40 pounds. And if they started smoking again, they would immediately lose it again. Again, not sure what he means by that. And he says, in most cases, the mechanism is simply an increase or decrease in appetite. And there are pills exist that could make you gain weight and make you feel hungrier, and which is true. I'm not going to debate him on that. But this is a scientific fact, he says, and the hunger signals will simply be stronger and more frequent and harder to satisfy. Now, here's my problem with that, is that you still have a choice. You still and just because it's harder to control doesn't give you a free pass to just kind of eat crap and eat whatever you want. If you're hungry, you can still make better choices with the food that you choose to consume. No one says you have to eat processed foods. And then here's another section where he talks about the hormonal component. We're saying that there's a genetic component to obesity or a hormonal component. And in most cases, it's not that you have two people who eat the both exact same diet and only one of them gains weight. Well, everyone has different ways that they adjust to food, and also the exact same people. It's just relative to how they digest food. Also, activity levels, sleep, stressors, so many other components that go into your fitness, health, weight loss, gaining muscle, other than just what you eat. I mean, it's a huge factor, but there are other components of that as well. We can't just, throw food at the wall and hope it sticks. And that one of them feels hungry or hunger urges more strongly, and a thinner person may even be suppressing those urges with something like smoking. And the reason why obesity has gone up in the United States is the rate of people smoking has gone down. Now, that is false. We should also look at the rate of which processed foods have become a staple. We also have to look at the fact that there are companies out there who are specifically manufacturing food, and they have food scientists. Yes, that's a real thing. Food scientists to make you want to eat more, because obviously if you consume more of the product, what happens? Their sales go up. They make more money because if you eat more of it and they make it taste good to the point where it's like you can't stop eating it. We've all had those bag of chips where we just can't stop eating. Then mission accomplished on their part, because guess what? You run out and guess what do? You go out and buy more, right? It's all about getting their hunger profiles and taste profiles in the right spot, so that way you consume more and then they make more money, because if you don't consume it or you make it filling, you're not going to buy as much. And he says that all appetites work this way. Now, only a Sith speaks in absolutes. That's by Star Wars reference. But occasionally you'll run into a celebrity or historical figure claiming that it's routine for them. And he compares it to like two guys walk into a casino. One of them can get so addicted to gambling that he gambles away their house, and the other guy gets bored and leaves. That there is some truth to that, but I think it's an unfair comparison because they both have dopamine levels in the brain, but they're two completely separate things. And then he's referencing, when he comes back to it, he says, when it comes to appetite or food, that's stronger than any of them. Like, I'm not crazy about calling people a food addiction because that's actually downplays it. Statistically, factually, the success rate of curing someone of a heroin addiction It's much, much higher than the success rate of this. Now, this is false because I looked up the study of this and it turned out to be, I wouldn't say an unbiased study, but it turned out that that is not the case. And I can reference a study right here if you want to look it up later, so you know I'm not making this up. But there is a study, where is it done? It was done in 1959 by Albert Stunker. Now, I'm not going to go into that. However, you can look that up on your own because I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole with this. I just want to stay on topic here. And then he says, the reason we saw obesity become an epidemic across the first world is simply because food became more available. Not wrong, but also food became a lot more processed. And he is right when he says that I can have 5,000 calories worth of fat and sugar summoned to my door with zero effort and very little cost. So basically what we're saying here is we have people with a lack of willpower. It's not even discipline. It's just that, just because you have it readily available doesn't mean you have to eat it. You can still be hungry and you can still eat, but you can make better choices. I guarantee you, if you ate 1,000 calories worth of broccoli, you'd be very full. And those so-called hunger hormones or whatever that you would want to consume would be suppressed. Because when you look at the American diet, it has highly lacking in protein and fiber, especially lean proteins. And fiber being fruits and vegetables, and then protein obviously being the lean protein. I mean, you add in more of that, and I guarantee you hunger cravings will be curbed. And it says right here, and a lot of people who are able to stay thin in this environment, lots of times it's because they've got some other factor at play. False. I'm not going to go into that. It's just, that's not true. We all have stress. We all get tired. We all get burned out. And that doesn't give anyone an excuse to overconsume on processed foods. And see, he says right here that a lot of them, for example, burn a lot of calories because they feel extreme anxiety unless they are exercising. Okay, maybe. The last time I lost a bunch of weight was about a decade ago because the job stress made me so sick that I was throwing up half my meals. It was around this time that layoffs and everyone was telling me how great I looked. But if I locked you in a prison cell and it's just you and this cheeseburger, I'm sorry, but at some point you'll eat the burger. That is true because if I have no other food, I will eat that. But also there's calories in, calories out. It's like, and if you refuse to admit that, you are simply lying to yourself. And at some point in your life, your desires are going to blindside you. I like that one. Your desires are going to blindside you. Now let's kind of dig more into this. Now, this is like handing someone a map that says, you know what, no matter what direction you walk, you're lost anyways. And eventually they stop trying to move. You're pretty much handing them, like I said earlier, a get out of jail free card for making all the choice that they want, because guess what? It's just biological or hormonal, and you just feel hunger cravings more, and therefore you are powerless and you cannot do anything about it. So the reason why this matters is that people stop believing change is possible. They're like, well, I can't change then because my hunger cravings are more than yours. And there's really no way to actually know that. I mean, we do know that, but I mean, come on, like, let's take a little bit of ownership here. And then the issue is that if people have a get out of jail free card, they stop building the skills needed to be required for that. And then they stop trying before they even start because they're like, well, I have a genetic defect that makes me eat more. And while that may be true, that doesn't mean that you don't try, right? This reminds me of the time when I blame my dyslexia on the reason why I got bad grades. So should I just blame my learning disability and be like, you know what? I have a learning disability. I'm just never going to get good grades. And I remember my parents specifically told me, they're like, Matt, stop blaming your learning disability as a reason to not give effort, or at least to try. And that really hit me hard. And I remember distinctively that, yeah, I'm going to try harder. And ultimately what this did was that this took away my victim mentality, because at the end of the day, it's like, there's always a cycle of blame, right? You always blame your circumstances, then you blame other people, and then finally you blame yourself. It's like, well, I'm just like this, and that's just an excuse that isn't going to happen. And even if you do have some sort of a handicap or something against you, that doesn't mean that it just gives you a free pass. Maybe it's not your fault, but ultimately it is your problem. And we all have things that we all have strengths and weaknesses, or advantages and disadvantages. So we have to lean into the things that we do have advantages with, and also be okay with the fact that, hey, I'm not perfect here, but I'm still going to try regardless of what, life handed at me. And I'm like, I was dealt these cards, I'm just gonna have to play them. Now let's get back to the video here. So let's go back to the core narrative here. So this video takes real biological truths and stretches them into conclusions of powerlessness. So let's break down the hunger claim. So it says that hunger signals vary person to person, hormones affect appetite, that thin people aren't, and that thin people aren't morally superior. I mean, who said that? And no one said that in the first place. Ozempic proves obesity was never about discipline. Okay, interesting. And then your body is basically overriding your choices. So let's look at the parts that are true. Is that appetite differences are real. It is true that people will feel hunger more. Like there's a specific hunger hormone, and some people will feel more hungry than others. Stress eating is real. Like people have different vices when they get stressed out, and eating is a very common thing. Sleep deprivation affects hunger. Of course it does, because when you're hungry, when you get tired, your body needs more energy, and it's going to go after things like caffeine and food. Medications affect appetite. Absolutely. They even say this on the commercials where like, hey, may cause unexpected weight gain, may cause hunger. And like it's pretty normal. Food environment matters. Exactly. Like if you're surrounded by a bunch of people who eat processed foods and eat bad food, chances of you eating that are bad as well. But there's a huge difference between biology influences behavior and you have no meaningful control. And I think that's the main thing, my main problem with the entire video that he made is that, of course, biology influences behavior. Like, let's say I produce more testosterone than some other dude that doesn't give me a free pass to start banging every chick that I like. And I just say, well, you know what? I just produce more testosterone than you. I'm more horny. So therefore, I have to have sex more with other people because that's just how I'm wired. No, like you can make decisions even if you want something or you feel tempted to do something that you know isn't good for your health. You can still say no. Like you can feel the hunger and you can feel the hormones and still choose to not eat because you can still be like, I've had enough. Even though I feel hungry, I know I've had enough. Also, another huge thing that can help with food thing is just increasing your activity. I mean, when was the last time you ran? And during that run or during that walk, you're like, man, I'm super starving. Like, no, because it kind of blocks the hunger hormones as well because your body's sending blood to other areas for the activity. And what this is saying, and this is like saying that gravity exists, therefore learning to ride a bike is impossible. And I cannot stand this harder than heroin claim that he made. He pretty much says that, trying to quit bad food is like harder to quit than heroin. And then there's a 1959 obesity clinic study which he's pretty much referencing. So it's really outdated. There's selection bias on that. And then we're only looking at extreme cases. Like that's just one study. And that study was proven to be debunked. And again, you can go look at that on your own. I said it earlier. And later population studies showed much higher success rates in terms of kicking heroin over food. Or food over heroin, I should say. And the key point here is that comparing obesity to heroin addiction is just not inaccurate. It's completely disconnected from reality. It's like judging everyone's swimming ability by only interviewing them by being drowning. It's like, so if biology matters, then what are people supposed to do with this information? You're just telling people that everything's not okay and you're just, well, there's nothing you can do about it. So I think the key thing here is that there's a difference between awareness and excuses. And biology should create awareness, but it shouldn't give you a full free pass to just surrender to it. And like just because my biology is like this doesn't mean I get to just be like, oh, there's nothing I can do. And what people should do with this information is just understand hunger cues. Like this would have been a great video if he would have just been like, hey, you know what? This should create awareness, but this doesn't give you a free pass. And so you need to understand hunger cues, build better environments, hang around with people and, stock your pantry with things that aren't junk food and delete apps that make it easy to have access to bad food. And you have to track intake honestly, increase your movement because that's going to help as well because that will help suppress those hunger hormones, reduce sleep, reduce stress, and create structure, okay? And again, I think these are kind of bundled terms, but ultimately, if you work out and you increase your activity, you will lose weight. Ultimately, regardless of your hunger hormones. I can't tell you how many times where I've been really hungry and I personally didn't want to eat because I knew I had a workout in like 30 minutes. And so, but once the workout started, all the blood flow, instead of being in my stomach telling me how hungry I was, went to my extremities to where they needed blood for the workout. And I wasn't as hungry for that hour. So I was able to suppress it for an hour just by doing that and suppressed after exercise as well. And then after that, then you can eat again. But I think a lot of times it's like when you're inactive, you also get bored and you want to eat. And this happens to me on my rest days. Again, I'm not saying that's for everybody. That is for me personally. And your biology is a context. It's not just ultimately your destiny. And humans can override impulses. I like, this is something that baffles me. It's like, just because you have an impulse doesn't mean you don't have control over it. At the end of the day, you have full control over what you put in your mouth. You have full control over what you do in terms of activity. You have full control over what you choose to do. Okay. You can think or feel whatever you want, and that's totally fine, because we all have those feelings. But what you do is ultimately what matters. And hunger is real. Cravings are real. I'm not denying that. But humans also have executive function. We are able to make the decision whether or not we do something or not. Like, nothing in my biology forces me to do anything. And the key line here is that if humans were complete slaves of biology, then discipline at all wouldn't exist. I mean, there are times where I don't want to go work out. Does that mean I just don't do it? No, it's like, it's just, sorry, I'm going to go do it because that's what I have to do. It's like, you can do the same thing with food. It's like, I can feel hungry, but you know what? I know for a fact I've had enough to eat. I will stop myself there. And I will say, just as devil's advocate, it doesn't make it any easier that the food now, again, is very tasty, and it's very easy to get caught up in consuming more food than what you need. And your body is the engine. Ultimately, your prefrontal cortex is the driver, and the engine, can be very loud. But the driver ultimately decides where the car goes. And the reason why weight loss feels hard is because, your body isn't conspiring against you, is that maintenance simply requires effort. And fitness and weight loss is hard. And when we live in this instant gratification culture of where we get the instant likes, and we have the instant food, we have the instant entertainment, we have a computer in our pocket that we can also ask AI almost anything and get it with pretty decent accuracy. We have access to things that are instant. We have Amazon Prime. Like, we're just used to getting things so fast that when it comes to sticking with something for a very long time, it just feels extremely uncomfortable. And at the end of the day, our body prefers efficiency. It's like, if I can get something quickly, why not take the most efficient route? Unfortunately, fitness and health, there's nothing we can do, at least, objectively, very quickly, other than being on some of these GLP-1s that to accelerate some of that. But then again, there are side effects of that as well. So, just like muscle requires upkeep, sedentary living may feel easier, and high calorie food really is everywhere, which makes it harder because the environment is our natural environment, especially in the United States, is not manufactured for success for fitness. It's manufactured for profits. And your house will naturally get messy if you stop cleaning it. So your body will work the exact same way. If you don't clean it, if you don't maintain it, things get bad. It's just like anything else. And most people's struggle is way less mysterious than the internet makes it sound. It's very simple, but that doesn't mean it's easy. So let's talk about what we can do right now. What we can work on right now is, first off, stop guessing. Most people dramatically underestimate intake. So there's liquid calories, oil, sauces. There's weekend eating and overeating and over drinking, snacking. Snacking is a big one. Healthy, calorie dense foods, things like nut butters and stuff, delicious, but very high calorie dense, quote unquote, healthy foods like peanut butter. And people need to track calories the same way people estimate Amazon spending. And what we can do is also stop the restrict/binge cycle. So instead of barely eating all day and then eating at night, because I know a lot of you do that, and then we get confused by progress stalls, well, it's because we don't eat at all, and then guess what? You have to eat more because your body is in starvation mode. And then guess what? When you're in that mode, and not starvation mode, I should say, and that's not a technical definition, but when you deprive yourself of something for so long, then you're going to make worse choices. Let's just say that, worse choices. And the ultimate thing that we can build here is structure and accountability, and to have a system in place to actually help someone actually get from point A to point B. This is why having a coach is so important. This is why I'm such a big proponent of one-on-one coaching. I get one-on-one coaching myself in certain areas that I'm lacking in. So if you're not doing well in a certain area or you need something specific, one-on-one coaching is the ultimate way to go. So when it comes to food, though, it's like we need to work on meal timing, regular exercise, of course, strength training, aerobic work, daily movement, sleep routine, high protein intake. And yeah, the people who maintain results long term, they always do the boring basics repeatedly. And I think that with the abundance of information out there, that I'm so baffled that more than 42% of people are obese, because the problem really is not knowledge. It's the problem comes down to execution. And the execution part is is single-handedly the hardest part, and I've struggled with it myself, believe me. And fitness works more like brushing your teeth than winning the lottery. It's like it's just one of those things you just have to chip away at over time, and it's not just like one aha moment. Like, oh, I won, I'm there. No, I won at fitness. Like, you don't win at fitness, you win at fitness by just not quitting and by sticking with it long term. The whole point isn't to get fit. The whole point is to stay fit. And to stay fit, you have to be consistent. You have to keep going in the right direction. And another point I want to make before we start wrapping things up is that we need to stop romanticizing powerlessness. And the victim mindset feels comforting in the short term, but it destroys long-term action. And, people want, external validation. They want, like, it's not your fault. And it becomes addictive when they hear that, because again, because then it's like, oh, well, it's not my fault. So therefore, since it's not my responsibility, it's okay that I'm like this. And accountability is now officially offensive. We've written to the point where it's like, if I say, hey, you are fat, you are overweight, or you are obese, then it's offensive, even though it may be objectively true by health standards. Yeah, that's where we're at in 2026. But the moment you believe that you have zero control, you remove your ability to change. If you just say, like, hey, you know what, I just genetically, I'm not a muscle up person. I will never get a muscle up. Well, then you'll never get a muscle up. But if you take the steps and you do the work and you give it time and you be patient over a long enough time horizon, at some point you will get it. Ah, man, what a rant. I usually don't like ranting, but I am today. And well, let's just bring it back. So fat loss is hard. Biology does matter. Environment matters. Hunger is real, but humans are adaptable. And if your car struggles uphill, you don't just abandon the car, you learn how to drive it better. And that's exactly what we need to be doing with our bodies. So takeaway from this is that biology is the context. It's not the conclusion. And the moment you stop treating yourself like a victim of your biology, you can finally give yourself a chance to change. Till next time, good luck, have fun, and nailed it.